back, everyone, to the World 2023 play-in stage. Today, we'll be wrapping up the lower bracket, starting with a round 1 rematch between LLL and GAM to find out who will move on to the advancement match and who will be eliminated. As a reminder, as Ashin taught us yesterday, losing equals defeat. I'm Quickshot, joined by Gulborg and Raz. 2 teams advance, 2 teams get eliminated. GB, are you hyped to send some people home today?
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait to send people home. I love watching the Olympics where they swim, and that's kind of what we have here, you know.
Swim home if you lose.
I mean, that's what we're expecting of BDS, right?
Very hard for BDS. That's a lot further. I think it's
Maybe
a lot
they
further.
can catch up to Golden Guy.
Listen, there are 2 more.
I saw how slow they were. They can overtake him.
Raz, 2 more best of 3 today. Set up the 2 advancement matches. What you can see on your screen is the entire bracket. Just as a reminder, the 2 teams in the upper bracket will face the opposite group's members in the lower bracket. I believe we have a graphic to show you that right now. Team Wales will be playing either GAM or Loud, whoever wins in our first series. PSG will be playing the Flying Oysters or BDS, whoever wins in our second series. Raz, what do you make of the matchups?
I mean, I love it so far. It's something that I remember, I think I saw it on Twitter, just someone mentioning that it could just be the rematch of the finals for both BCS and BCS. Yes, exactly. So that for me is going to be a big one. I am looking at BDS in particular. Sure, they've had some ups and downs, but I think they'll have a good showing.
I also love the other end of it, which is now that Loud is going up against only the rest of Vietnam to qualify to the Swiss stage. That means that is a CBLOL that has to conquer the VCS to make it to the Swiss.
Brazil versus Vietnam.
And the same end on the other side of the bracket, where it's Europe against the PCS. So it's just region pinned up against region now.
Now, just so you guys are aware, yesterday, Ender predicted BDS losing because he wanted to see the PCS matchup. He predicted Loud losing because he wanted to see the VCS. So Ender's just here to watch the world burn. Before we get into the matchups, I thought it would be fun to have a little bit of a history rundown. As the representative old man of every broadcast ever, I wanted to take you back to a magical moment for the CBLOL, for Brazil. I do this for Kaboom! When they took down Alliance, Tinowns was on that roster. Arguably the first tick, the first win, the first milestone for the emerging regions versus the major regions, but it didn't stop there.
It makes you a believer, right? That one was one thing that hurt the hearts of a lot of European fans.
Myself included.
Yeah. I'll talk about one team that hurt the hearts of me as an LPL fan, and it was INTZ that upset EDG in 2016. That one killed me. That one shook things up quite a bit, made it a lot more interesting within the booths. Yes. The boys, Revolta, Yang, Talkers, Macau, like that team was so amazing to see. There's right now actually still content creators, so a lot of respect to them right now. They're probably watching Worlds right now, seeing their faces on the screen.
But I really also think it's a contrast to the kind of Loud that we have now, because before then it was really just about beating these single teams and that was a success. Yeah. Now you actually have opportunities to make a successful story of your run, and that's not just huge for the region of CBLOL, that's huge for Loud. That has become such a resurgence in Brazil, now 3 times back-to-back, taking the title there as well, making it to the internationals. This is a trajectory that's just going up, and once again, not just for CBLOL, but for Loud specifically. That's such a social media phenomenon as well.
For the region, and for anybody that has watched international events, pretty much MSI in Worlds was represented by one Brazilian team, and then it would change the next year, and it would change the next year, and it would change the next year. You know, we've had Red Canids, we've had Flamenco, we've had Loud, we've had Pain. Every year changed. Now we've had Loud 3 years in a row. So see what they can do. Obviously, they've got tough matches ahead of them. Let's turn our attention to the other side of the bracket, because the PCS, they've been able to punch above their weight, I think, quite regularly. I think MSI 2021, the semifinals, is a good example of that. And I think, Gulborg, when we look at the PCS and sort of the #1 representatives, they've tended to always been better than the rest of the emerging regions, but still sort of struggled against sort of the major regions.
Yeah, I think that's at least the testimony in the most recent years, right? Because as you said, in 2021, they did make it to the semifinals and had a deep run. But then after that, it's kind of become this thing where PCS is regarded better than the rest of the play-ins teams. Yeah. But once they make it to the Swiss stage, or actually main stage or the other times, they just struggle. But it now finally feels like there's always this threat about a PCS team where if they just get the right roster, the right members together, they can always make a deep run. And that's the hope you always have for this region.
It's funny. Every group draw, it's the same thing. They see a PCS team drawn into their group and they think, oh, this one should be easy, right? Yeah. So I remember seeing the 100 Thieves one last year, and then they dropped the game to CFO. That stuff tends to happen. So I love the fact that you mentioned PSG. That was when they had Maple on the roster last with River. interestingly enough, where they went to the semifinals. There are multiple moments, multiple teams that did this. 2019 in Europe, where J-Team actually took game 1 off of the eventual world champions and LPL first seed in FPX. We saw this from PSG, actually, if I remember correctly. I'm thinking this one through. Oh yeah, actually, it was the same one you mentioned. But mostly from the group stage, because people were sleeping on them, but they beat down Mad. C9 didn't qualify going to the next round because of their success, so I'm always excited to see them play.
Let me speedrun Vietnam very quickly because I think raise your ruffalos for Phong Vu Buffalo. The demon of G2. GAM, they also eliminated Top Esports last year. I think the VCS, in my head, I always think of them as like a one-team region. I always kind of have this feeling that it's the #1 seed that makes dents and makes impacts. I think GAM, especially back when they were still called Gigabyte Marines, for example, that was the team that really, like, you know, made a mark, shall we say, for VCS.
Yeah, but I don't think that's necessarily true for the actual region itself. Now, Team Secret could have easily been here as well if you watched the VCS playoffs back. But also, if you think back to 2021 at that MSI, they couldn't even send their first seed when they finally qualified back after COVID. They sent their second seed at the time. And I think we have this pre-notion of GAM now, specifically because of what happened at MSI when they lost to R7, how weak they looked. But then Team Wales came in here, and thank God for the format we had. Because if we did not have the format, I saw the Reddit comments, I saw social media, they were just, why is VCS having 2 seeds? And I kind of got it from the first day. But you kind of need to temper your expectations a bit and see for the rest of the tournament as well. And that's kind of what Team Wales showed then moving forward. And specifically this format, they are just really good.
I want to talk a little bit more about VCS in a moment or two, but let's get to the pre-match. And in today's first series, it's an explosive rematch in that bottom lane, as the Penta Kings, Root and Slayder, are facing off in our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz. In today's featured matchup, presented by Mercedes-Benz, we have 2 teams hungry to prove themselves. This showdown between Loud and GAM Esports will determine who moves on to face the surprise team of the play-in stage, Team Wales. On day 1, Loud's Root demolished Slayder in the 1v1 and managed to secure a pentakill.
Finally they go into the turret, and it's going to be a pentakill for Roush!
He's looking to deliver CBLOL to the Swiss qualification best of 5. Slayder was promised to be the VCS's shining AD carry, and yesterday he delivered with his own pentakill.
It's a quadra kill for Slayder! Pentakill for Slayder! But it's a league of pentakills here in the play.
It's up to him to prove that he can stand up to Root in the repeat matchup this time. Who will carry on the hopes of their region, and which team will emerge victorious? We're going to find out in just a moment. Just before we continue, can I ask everyone to please say thank Penta Penguin. That's 3 for 3, all 3 pentakills by Oshin. I'm not jealous at all. Root versus Slayder. This is, again, a rematch from that round 1. Root definitely got the better end of the deal in the first time these 2 teams match up. I think Slayder has looked better. I think the whole team has. But, I mean, my expectations are still that Root has the advantage coming into Game 1.
Yeah, better deal, or is he just straight up the better player? Because that's what it looked like when they were playing against each other the first time. And that's also what I believe. I think there's a big mismatch in the bot lane. I think Slayder, even going up against R7 where he did improve, he was still outclassed by the likes of Root when he was on that Kai'Sa. And I think that's where there's going to be struggles today.
What I love about Root, to your point, is that he trusts his instincts. Day 1, a lot of people nervous. He just goes and tests the limit pretty consistently. But I have a lot more faith in Slayder this time around. Yes, worse competition when they went up against R7, but I thought his team fighting was much more better. I thought their draft actually helped him out quite a bit, and the team really supported him in team fights. So set up for success, and he himself was just straight up playing better. So I think this is going to be a little bit closer going into this series.
Yeah, but now the thing is, I need to see what sort of impact that mentality or that first series defeat will have on GAM, because they did have a game 2 that was better, but take a look at the stats here for Slayder individually, right? Versus Loud versus R7, it is day and night. Damage per minute is up. His CSD is better. His average goal difference is better. But obviously, when you're getting dumpstered and losing like 1v2s to a Kai'Sa, you're going to have very bad stats.
Yeah, you know, obviously, and I think they look better. You're winning the team here. But I was asking the stat team as well, what about the damage here? Because obviously, you're better as an AD carry here.
Yes.
It was actually lower in the win, which also meant that the rest of the map for GAM stepped up in that instance. A lot came out from Kati, if you remember his Syndra as well, with a lot of the scatters, right? So I'm curious to see if it's just going to be a Slayder thing or something where the rest of the map was going to have to step
GB,
up.
I'm going to channel my social media, my Reddit voice. GAM got destroyed by Loud. GAM were embarrassed by Loud. Loud were so much, a million times the better team. respond.
But I think that would be the comment if you had only watched Game 1. I think a lot of people forget about Game 2, where GAM was actually leading this game. They were up 5k. This mid-dive in specifically, I think it's like 20 minutes into the game. Around that, they pick up Baron after this. When you watch this in-game, you think to yourself, okay, the game is over. There's no way Loud will come back in this. Then they have Baron, and then GAM starts sieging. You look at the map state right now. Kiaya is still in the river on the Nocturne, where he's going to be TPing in the bit, but there's no setup. Top lane's not pushed in. Mid lane's not pushed in. It's Slayder getting caught when they're sieging, and all of a sudden, they lose this game just because of one of these overextensions. That's something that's been plaguing GAM for a long time. You can take a look at the post-game breakdown. Look at the goal graph. This is a game that should have been won. This series was a lot closer than people maybe will get credit
Game 1 was a blowout in Game 2.
Yes, and this is where I hope that GAM have improved.
And even in the blowout, it really stemmed from bot lane, as we've seen through all of the replays, where Kiaya was stomping through top lane. And they were, if this was a much more standard game, it would have been fine for GAM, and they would have actually had a lead in the first 8 minutes. But that, of course, that's where our eyes do go bot lane, because it feels like that's another terrible spot. And even in the win that they had versus R7, the only thing I'm looking at is Levi. Levi's early game was a little bit troublesome.
Before we dive into Levi's position, I want to go back to the top lane, because something that has caught my eye, especially when we were preparing for today, was watching back the VODs. In my head, I just have a pretty blanket statement. Kiaya is better than Robo. And I just want to validate that. Like, if I were to say that outright, how would you respond? We got stats on the screen that are going to help back me up, but what do you see from the gameplay side of things, Raz?
It's understandable. And I think, I will say, Levi is helping out Kiaya a lot more while Robo is on an island, and that's kind of his role. But there's a lot of faith in Kiaya. You talk to the coaching staff, there's a reason for that. For Robo, he's actually having a lot of trouble around counter picks around Renekton. If he's picking Renekton, then he's feeling pretty troubled by the Kennen and Rumble counter picks. And guess what Kiaya is playing? He's playing the Rumble, and honestly, this was actually the first sight that we saw in Game 1 where he dumpstered Robo in this one. So I want to see a little bit more support for Robo early, getting him the Rumble, the Renekton pick, because he doesn't want to play the Rumble and Kennen. If he has Olaf, fantastic, but teams have been banning that away from him.
Absolutely, and you know, it was something that PSG was kind of abusing against Loud as well, where they kept playing off towards the top side. Robo, traditionally speaking, didn't get too many resources, even in some of the best performances he had. You think back to the Na 1v2 he had in CBLOL.
That's true.
He did not have a good laning phase. He was behind in that laning phase, and they came back by team fighting, which is what Loud does. But against better teams as well, where if you give them the early game, they will take it into the late game. That's where Loud starts struggling then if they cannot get ahead on even footing, and that's where Robo needs to stabilize. I think it's really curious. I was joking even with producers backstage as well that the featured match of the day should be Kiaya versus Slayder, because that's where I find the mismatch in this game.
Okay, so hang on. I want to build on that in a second, and I want to first just check in with the fans at home, who they are predicting to win in our MasterCard fan predictions. Each day you can head over to @MasterCardGG on X to participate. Loud have got 68.9% of the vote. GAM 31.1%. I do think Brazil and CBL is a little bit more of a Twitter, X region, whereas to my knowledge, GAM VCS is a little bit more like Facebook oriented. And now we need to see, will this actually show up? Do you favor Loud and GAM? As this will disappear, I'm going to ask production to bring some drafts up on screen.
Yes.
So I want to hear about this mismatch. That top is going to be favoring GAM. Obviously, bot we think is favoring Loud. How do you think that'll play out in the game? How do you think that'll play out in the draft? I don't want to see Mel fight again. Let's get rid of that. But Raz, I'll come to you first.
That one is, the nasty one. Because this one is really confusing. So the Rumble pick, this is in Game 2 where they felt like they couldn't pick Rumble because of the Kennen and Rumble counter pick. And then when you go into 5, he's like, let me pick for team comp. You see a Kennen, and then generally this is pretty heavy AP. Just really rough, and so he ended up getting dove, already was behind prior to that, and he was getting bullied for the rest of the game. This one, I think, is a little bit closer to where I should see them, regrettably, because of the limited champion pool that he has.
So let me focus you. We've got a minute to go. Right?
Fair.
From what we've seen, what do you want to see, and who do you think will win?
If Rumble is picked or is available, I want it to be picked by Loud. Unfortunately, I do favor GAM this time around. I think they are playing much better and are slowly getting comfortable within the tournament. So I'd say it's going to be 2-0.
Ooh, leaning towards GAM. What do you make of this?
I think there's no way this is going to be a 2-0. I think they're way too shaky in the late game for me specifically. Draft specifically, I don't know. I think they're going to be more stable on the top side. Slayder might go and grab the Xayah again for himself and then hopefully play a better matchup. I think GAM this time around will have a better edge, specifically from what I saw in that Game 2. I think the Game 1, it should never happen again where Route just takes over and hopefully they're more stable. I can see GAM take it 2-1. I want to manifest the VCS rematch of the finals.
With 25 seconds to go, if Loud lose, if GAM win top and Loud win bottom, surely that means the series is favored for Loud.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, I'll
yes?
agree with that.
So you still want to manifest VCS. Okay, I'm with Raz on this one because he agreed with what I'm landing on.
Oh, okay,
that
there
does
we go.
it from
I
us
like
here at
this.
the desk. We've got a Loud and a GAM prediction that does it. It's time to head over to Lol Park for Loud versus GAM.
Acho que a derrota é bem importante assim para você conseguir evoluir, não só como profissional, mas como ser humano também. Então eu sinto que o nosso grupo, quando a gente perde, a gente se junta, a gente fica mais unido do que a gente era. Eu sei que a gente ainda não tá fora.
Pentakill for Slayder!
Tới lúc Pentakill thì cũng có hơi vui, nhưng mà mục tiêu hiện tại của bản thân em cũng như là GAM là chiến thắng và mọi thứ khác không quan trọng, và chỉ cần chiến thắng thôi.
Jogar com a GAM de novo acho que vai ser bem desafiador. Eu sinto que eles estavam um pouco nervosos quando eles jogaram contra a gente, principalmente no primeiro jogo.
When the chips were down and their backs were against the wall, again Loud find their pick.
Theo em đánh giá thì Lao có những tuyển thủ khá là tốt. Theo em nghĩ thì nếu như mà bản thân em và GAM thể hiện đúng thực lực của chính mình thì GAM sẽ chiến thắng trước Lao.
Enquanto a gente estiver de pé, a gente vai continuar lutando, sem medo.
Vamos todos dar nosso melhor.
Pentakill for Crowny!
And they find themselves a date with CFO.
The Korean solo queue really improved me. I think my laning improved, my mechanics improved. I played against a lot of pros from SCK.
首先，我们的选手就可能心态都特别好，就输了也不会有什么气氛之类的，然后就大家一起检讨之后的比赛要怎么打，然后也检讨那场输的时候该怎么继续做得更好，这是我们团队强的部分吧。
People who have way more worlds experience than me told me the most important thing, really try to stay connected as a team and keep your trust in each other.
印象是后期我们整个团队的默契都配合比他们好，然后就整个团队打起来都会像一个团队，对这个印象很深刻。
From now on, every game matters. Every game could be our last one. So I'm just giving it my all, trying to play with confidence, with no regrets.
如果我想清楚，应该没有那么难处理。
CFO, good luck in our next match, but make no mistake, we are going to win.
What's your play guard? What's your play guard? They gotta crumble one by one. Then we gon' ride to the sun like it's the day my kingdom come. Baby, we're
Hello and welcome to the Caster Desk for this incredible series between Loud and GAM. I'm Dracos. This is my brother from another father. Different moms. Actually, different moms, same. Different moms, same dad. It's complicated how exactly we're related.
But we found each other in the casting booth.
in the casting booth. Been talking about family history today. You're not going to learn any of that. You're going to learn about League of Legends instead.
No 23andMe.
No 23andMe, baby. Just World's 23andMe.
Ooh.
And Mark C. Hey, let's go. Getting ready for this game. Not sure what to expect here. The desk, a bit divided on what to expect. The fans clearly very much in favor of Loud. Doesn't surprise me that much given the X presence from Brazil.
Yeah, a lot of Brazil fans, and of course they did win the first matchup on day one, which gives them a bit of a leg up in a lot of people's estimations. But I think that was a very poor showing from GAM from what we can expect from them. I think maybe day one nerve, something like that, and they looked better. Still not fully confident in them to win the series based off yesterday's showing, but it was at least a step up. Slayder looked a lot better. He was someone who had a really rough day one when people were expecting him to have a good showing.
Yeah, well, he did ultimately, you know, one of the Penta Kings, as Quickshot called him, playing like a popper in some of those moments. Highly questionable in a meta that so far has seemed very defined, or at least plans as a whole, very defined by how good your AD carry is. Outside of, you know, some of the cheeky Adam games where he's been able to take over, it's been a lot about these Xayahs, as is usually the case when they're in the meta. So curious to see what will happen as we jump into picks and bans. What are they going to ban away? What will they take away? Will we see any Ezreal today? I hope not.
Nope. Especially for BDS fans coming later in the day, they don't want to see that. I think Ezreal's priority, what will happen, is when Ruler gets on the stage and plays Ezreal, suddenly people will be like, wow, this champ's busted. But we'll see. That's for another time.
A tale as old as time, my friend. Everyone convinced they can play a champion because they see someone just so casually dominate on stage with it. Very rarely actually the case. Fans for now, nothing too crazy. Poppy, Renekton, Jax, a lot of top lane focus, which does make a decent amount of sense. You heard again on the desk, discrepancy between the top laners, Kiaya and Robo. Robo had a surprisingly good series. Not a guy that I look at on this team outside of obviously the overwhelming positive fan sentiment in his favor. When you look at the carries of this team, it's much more about route, but maybe he can look to replicate some of his more impressive performances.
Yeah, I think Robo has some of that burger flip energy that you can sometimes see out of Adam as well. You know, the top laners who sometimes just go absolutely off and carry a game by themselves. Sometimes they let it get a little away from them. And I think the Renekton ban is interesting coming out of Kiaya because I think it's kind of saying, I think I have a deeper champion pool. I think Renekton is very, very powerful in the current meta. I know some people are not thrilled when they see it because there's just that lingering crocodile hatred for some reason. I personally think he's a very, very strong pick. But this time around, Xayah.
Yeah, Xayah, unsurprising. Question is, what is the option on the opposite side? Wouldn't be surprised to see Rakan at this point. You could wait on your AD, but since you're probably picking Xayah anyway, just slam it. Rakan plus jungler would be my guess, since there's no rush to pick your support or your AD at this point.
Yeah, the Rakan takeaway feels like a must. We have seen a couple games now where people do not do it and are swiftly punished. Okay, unkillable Xayah and Rakan with absolutely free escapes.
You know, why would you let two strong characters be even stronger together? Why would you do that? It just doesn't make any sense.
You maybe didn't want to win that game.
That's fair. You never know.
Sometimes you just pass on the
We
wins.
talk a lot in competition about how both sides want to win. We rarely talk about the...
But like, how certain are you of that
how
statement?
certain are you?
When
Am
you
I
make that
sure?
statement, that's an assumption.
Don't you just wake up sometimes and go, I want to lose? Based on solo queue, I would guess that a lot of League of Legends players do wake up and say that to themselves. But maybe that's overly pessimistic for now.
The Doomer
Rakan,
cast
Xayah,
checking in.
Yeah, the absolute nihilism. The cast. Nothing matters.
Yeah, you can pick that, or you could just like not.
Or you could just not.
You could go to bed.
You could just not lock in a champion and get kicked out and have to wait for 6
Get out of
minutes.
Korea, go
Mark.
home, lay down.
Anyway, yeah, so Xayah Rakan, as expected, responding with jungle support on the opposite side. Again, Nautilus, Lee Sin pretty standard. Lee Sin a champion who, as always in the history of Lee Sin, can be pretty feast or famine. I'm concerned a bit for Croc because, again, it feels like one of the more unreliable components of the Loud formula, but a champion who, if you do show up, if you do pop off, can obviously be game defining.
He's a big vibe champion. I think if you're confident playing well, you can style on people. And Levi has played the Lee Sin as well a couple times, so maybe also a bit of a takeaway there. The jungle meta feels a little in flux. I think people know Maokai is strong, and you have...
No. Continue your point.
Okay.
I held up my hands like I was going to say something because I have a follow-up to your statement. Please.
Okay, so I was just going to say, it feels like the power rankings might flip around in the future. I think Lee Sin can be strong. Jarvan is you know, one of these pick ban champions, but now seems to be dropping in priority as the early stages have progressed. Are you going to lean more to the skirmishy ADs or just fall back to tanks like Sejuani and Rel and Maokai in the future? It doesn't seem clear to me quite yet.
Yeah, and I will say that historically, at least from my memory, jungle is often the fakest champion pool in plans. We see a lot of creativity there. We see a lot of left hooks, a lot of things coming out of nowhere that disappear entirely once we head to Swiss or groups, obviously in the past. So I wouldn't be surprised to see drastic changes as we do kind of step up to that higher level of competition. But for now, Lee Sin has looked solid. J4, the other big one, not surprised to see it banned away. The Spear of Shojin build, dumb.
Feels really good. I played it yesterday in our game.
Just endlessly EQing. Should he have EQ'd out at some point into the
We don't
Turbo
talk about that play.
No. He didn't want to. He just kept EQing, just forward, endlessly. Brain off. That's the way you play J4. And it's damn strong. If you haven't played it, haven't tried it out yourself, even on 1320, get out there and do it. Live your best life. But Nico going to get banned away as well. Mid lane focus here. Olaf, I guess, to shut down a potential option into the Cassante.
Yeah, Robo played a fair amount of Olaf at MSI as well. It was one of his better performing champions. Him and Broken Blade were making that thing look disgusting in plans of MSI. So maybe a little bit of a scar tissue from that series that GAM had against Loud back in the day.
Yeah, and I think if you are GAM and you can kind of, maybe cut out some of these crazy variables, Kiaya is overall the player that you would favor in the top lane 1v1. So take away kind of the crazier options. Take away the champions who can disrupt the status quo. Olaf is one of them. Vi also going to hit the bench. So really just trying to limit reliable engage options for Levi.
Don't worry, there's more in the tank.
Oh, man. All right, Nocturne going in. Against Xayah is always going to be a bit tricky. I like having the Nocturne, the Xayah together. Nocturne obviously lacks immediate reliable CC to set the Xayah up, but when you have a Rakan as well, it's going to be tough for Route to play the game, and Route was the standout player, bar none. Very clear to anyone watching the game, this is the guy that you want to shut down, and now GAM certainly have the tools to do it.
Yeah, he has the first pentakill of Worlds already at the 3+. Everyone is crying if they didn't select that for their pick'ems. And the Levi Nocturne is one of the greatest games of League of Legends ever played. If you go back to, I think it was like Season 6 when he busted out the like super fast clear.
Oh no! So that was we were in Wuhan, and it was I want to say 2017.
2017.
It was Levi,
correct?
Yeah, he was level 6. Everyone else on the map was level 4
or 5.
Bot lane wandered in with Galio to help him clear.
Big mistake.
Wild times. That was a very fun era for GAM. That was the initial rise of GAM.
Yeah,
a lot of those crazy strategies.
And the VCS as a whole was this region that was unbelievably bloodthirsty, that was creative, and had the mechanical skill to pull those off.
Yep.
I think if they ever make a League of Legends, like, Hall of Fame history, like, greatest moments of LoL esports, that game needs to be in there as one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly impressed by the innovation that can come out of the VCS. I don't think we're getting quite as much of it. Tristana would have been interesting. Tristana Kaisa, obviously the premier double AD composition, was hit pretty heavily coming into Worlds, just between nerfs on both champions as well as Ivern getting taken down a peg a little bit. But now instead we have the Viktor, who I'm going to be honest, doesn't fit into this composition at all. Viktor says, please come to me. Everyone else on GAM says, let's get in there. So a bit awkward and Loud. I think a much more stable, much more balanced composition in terms of what they want to be doing.
I think it might be the first Viktor of Worlds as well, if I'm not mistaken. I might have missed one, but I think this is the first time we've seen him locked in. And he is a little bit lower down the priority list of control mages that most people see. Orianna taken off the table, but most people would assume you go Azir next.
Sure.
You can play Azir into Ahri, maybe Viktor, slightly better individual matchup, but like you said, the mid to late game team fighting for the Viktor is going to consist of press R and put it on the target that we're trying to kill and hope it goes forward enough, because you do not have the easiest tools to follow up on Nocturne, Cassante, Rakan, Kaisa.
And if you are in a situation where people do come into you as Viktor, Viktor is really fantastic. When you're ahead, he often feels sort of like this almost bruisery mage, given how many little movement speed steroids, the shielding that you get coming in from the Q. He can be very powerful. It's just so rarely in pro play do we see that situation take place. There are 3 melee champions on the enemy team. There is a world where the Viktor can pop off, and we're just going to have to see what it does. In the meantime, on the opposite side, you've got great setup. It's not a Xayah. You know what you're getting. It's Ahri in the mid game with Charms alongside a Lee Sin. Early to mid game is going to be explosive. Is it going to be enough, though? Because once this Nocturne gets online, it's something we're going to have to keep track of. Remember, this is do or die series. We're going to move ahead to a best of 5 tomorrow. Does have the luxury of best of 3. Can't afford to lose a game, but want to come out swinging.
Elimination day, game 1. Loud versus GAM. I'm excited to see if they can pull it off. You can hear a lot of support, I think, for Loud. If I can understand that crowd chant.
Let's just hold on. Yeah, is that Loud? Yeah, no, that's Loud.
Yep, definitely Loud. They show up at MSI. The Brazilian crowd was going crazy behind us, bringing a ton of energy compared to when other regions were playing.
Yeah, and I will always respect that level of fandom. We're going to see for a brief moment. Rakan just spamming some voice lines. All right, no one. All right, what? Anybody? No? All right, no one's going to kill each other. And as a reminder, of course, if you want to earn exclusive Worlds 2023 like icons and emotes, you can log in and watch the games on lolesports.com. It's got some cool functionality, some stats on the side you can watch as well. So, cool platform. Get rewarded for watching on it. And now, as we look back in on the game, still no one has killed each other, which is a bit disappointing.
Shocking. Cowardly gameplay.
As a play-by-play, I look forward to one thing and one thing only, and it is teams fighting for very little reason.
I also agree, so I do not need to comment on anything. I just leave you to go. I'll go take a lap around the building. You handle this never-ending team fight.
Yeah. Instead, I guess we could talk about strategy.
Champions.
Scaling. Lane matchups.
Yawn.
Big yawn. So, speaking of a strategy, curious to see if Levi does anything. Historically, when you look at Nocturne, obviously a champion that you're like, oh, power farm to 6. But if there is decent setup, which there is on the bottom side, and he has started on the top side, so he can clear top to bot, there is room for him to get in for early ganks. Champion does a lot of damage. That said, kind of just expecting a relatively chill early game from the side of GAM, whereas Croc is really the one who needs to try and get something done with this early game Lee Sin.
I think you're especially going to see a lot of focus out loud around the mid lane because it does feel like one of the more punishable ones on the enemy side. It's also where you have a lot of the best setup. Of course, you can make plays in any lane for Croc, and this is exactly what you want when you draft a Lee Sin, is you want to have an abundance of options. So if something goes crazy in the bot lane and someone loses flash, you can then punish that. It's very easy to follow up on, and it's a very good composition in that sense. And you do still have some assurances in your scaling with the Xayah. So I do like Loud's composition for GAM. We already kind of talked about some of the maybe different ideas that the comp can go for, but at the very least, like you said, there are a lot of short-range champions on Loud, so you can always just drop your EQ on top of what people are and just drop tons of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we get into the later game fights, I'm curious to see what Robo is going to be able to do against these champions, because again, against a lot of these melee champions, Aatrox is ahead. He can wreak havoc as a champion who I think is very strong. I expect to see more of. Worlds is a nice little invade here. Loud leveraging their early bot lane priority, power that Xayah wave clear, to come in and contest Levi on the objective. Lee Sin coming in as well. Spell shield already used. Nice sidestep comes in from Levi. Surely he's going to have to just flash out here. But taking his time on the wander out. Is he just going to accept his fate? Rakan now coming in. Is he going to try to get out without flash? Now he's finally flashing to safety. The patience pays off. I think if he flashes over the wall, it's easy for Croc to flash follow and confirm the kill anyway. So very good patience coming in from Living.
Yeah, it would have been a big panic flash if you just go over the wall, like you said, easy to fall. So it takes a little bit of greedy time to kite back the other way, and he was able to do that without burning other sums from his bot lane. I was worried that's going to be one of those spillover plays where you're like, save me, and everyone commits everything, saving Private Ryan, then suddenly Pallet's losing his flash and stuff like that. But they're able to get out.
Sort of who saves the saver sort of situation. Pallet will back away. Ghost down for route. Xayah as well. Ignite down. So they are giving up some of those summoners to come move in and contest. It does still slow Levi's clear down, but because Lee Sin is in the area as well, ultimately not too bad for GAM.
And I like the aggression out of Loud level 1 or level 3. Excuse me. This is exactly what we were hoping to see when we talk about some of the playmaking that they have. Burn flashes, get in there. Levi has not been too slowed down with this clear. Did have to leave up that bot side of the jungle, but it was not actually stolen away. So you can eventually maybe get down there, pick those camps up. Just went to the top side for now. And of course, you do want to hold down a Nocturne if possible.
Yeah. And I think the other big thing, anytime you have these level 6 champions with globals or semi-globals, one of the big things that casters, you'll hear casters talk about, or teams talk about, is the importance of those first couple ults. It's the same story with Twisted Fate. It was the same story with Pantheon, although less so last time we saw him in the meta. But those first ults are really impactful because the cooldown is so damn long. If you don't get something out of it, this ult that you worked to for so much of the early game, amounting to nothing, just makes the champion feel completely worthless. So again, tracking the Nocturne, tracking that level 6, but Loud get lane prio again, this time knowing that they are safe to do so. Walk in, they take the camp away. So now Nocturne, a camp behind with no new camp to be replaced. We'll have to invade if he wants to get some of that back.
The positive side of this for GAM is that Kiaya has known where Croc is this entire time and seems to have been able to use that to get a lane advantage.
Now it. Trading his health for routes overall could be positive, but again, there's just not much of an angle here to get anything done on the bottom side as of yet.
Nope, just trying to punish Slayder over and over. That was one of the big areas that Loud got some advantages in their first matchup. Punishing Slayder, who had a very off series, hopefully going to have a better one this time around, because people might not remember from day one, GAM got a Baron, GAM should have won that game, and then they got really greedy with it, pushing in on the bot side of the map where it got turned around. So hopefully they have learned their lesson and will come with a little bit more reserved play if they do get big advantages.
Yeah, and I will say for the VCS as a whole, it was a wild playoff run. I think Goldberg has already mentioned Team Secret, but there were so many games in their playoffs that were decided by big Baron flips, ultimately. And that's something that's going to count against them, is now Robo forced to flash out to safety. Excellent play from Kiaya thus far. Howdy. Trying to get out, trying to sidestep, but they're just taking their time. Wait for the charm. Easiest first blood setup ever. Viktor just accepting, getting walked down slowly but surely.
Yeah, Tinowns just dashing at his face, forcing him to make a play, and eventually the flash comes out trying to predict the charm that Tinowns never threw until it was too late. And using that mobility to hop on top of him, the wave was not in a good spot. The fact that you could dash 3 times and still not be under the enemy turret means that Kati might have been a little too far pushed forward.
Yeah. And that's frustrating. Obviously, you just want to get as much of that early CS as possible, as well as, I mean, honestly, hopefully an assist or two, just to snowball, just to get those early Viktor augments. So falling behind early, again, it's a control mage. You know it's fine. It's okay if it falls behind a little bit, but going to make it that much harder for GAM to really do anything meaningful in bigger fights, and certainly going to affect a potential 3v3 topside. Herald, 1 minute and 4 seconds counting down until that will be up. And right now, with the pressure that Loud have on the map, it should be easy pickings unless GAM want to try and force the 3v3.
Yeah, we'll see how they want to do it here. Crashing a wave right now, Loud, means that they can get a little bit of chip damage down this turret, get your first couple plates, then maybe get a reset off and move to the Herald. See where they want to go around the map. I gotta say, Kiaya did get that flash on the top side, so it's not all for GAM right now. They do have one part of the map that is at least winning around 15-ish CS. It's been bouncing around for Kiaya. But now Croc wants to get involved with the pink ward that they dropped down, so they know where Levi is and what he's doing exactly.
Levi now sees the Lee Sin in his jungle. Pullback gonna come through. Now the Q2, Q3, big damage, and again, clean and simple. Loud, just walking into these kills. They're not burning flashes, they're not getting over aggressive, they're not wasting cooldowns. They're just making it happen in the enemy jungle.
And I gotta give credit to Robo there. He started that play off about a minute and a half ahead of time, running to the enemy jungle, dropping a pink ward down so they knew exactly when and where Levi was. That ward was not swept out. You can still see it there in that part of the map. And very easy to go ahead and now combo that with that Rift Herald, though Kiaya is trying to do his best to stop it.
Checking in on the experience, Levi, the one that you need to watch. He has been delayed from approaching level 6 at this stage. Once he gets that, maybe they have tools to contest, but there are no camps here for him to take. This is a spectator Rift Herald. Levi's in the area. He's clearing out the vision. GAM came to watch for a minute, just so Loud could show them how it's done, but
yeah,
sadly,
we see
there's
you,
no
bro.
reason.
Nah, one of those plays.
It's a difficult situation. If you go bot side, you're 100% conceding it. You think maybe if they fumble something, we can make a play, but there's no play to be had. And for now, Loud playing much cleaner in the early game. They are leveraging the priority that they have in lanes. They managed to make plays despite a losing top side, but now the counter punch coming in from GAM, the flash out from Nautilus is good.
Ooh.
And ultimately, first Nocturne ult traded for a Nautilus flash is a damn good deal for Loud.
And Levi actually burned his flash there as well. Looked like he was trying to prediction flash over the wall to get the fear on Nautilus, or was maybe trying to flash to the other side of the Nautilus for the fear to push him further up the lane. Either way, though, the fear was not that close to going off. Nautilus gets to the wall, gets the flash out. So Xayah not just eating Levi's ultimate there, but getting his flash out as well. And like you said, you hear casters talk about it. I'm going to do exactly that. You want? Tell me, Mark. When you have a global or semi-global champion, Dracos, you want it to go well. It's a long cooldown on that ultimate. And now he's going to have to wait for it to come back up before he can do anything.
And often in the past when Nocturne was popular, you would see them rush Lucidity boots just so they could have it up before their first ult for that nice chunk of ability haste. Levi has no such luxury. It's going to be a year, 2 years maybe. He'll have children. They'll be working their way into preschool by the time we see another ult. Maybe even kindergarten. It's going to be quite some time before we see that ultimate up and available. As Board Drinker coming out for Lee Sin on the opposite side. This is bad. Again, it's only a 1.3k gold difference at this stage of the game, but GAM can't do anything.
No, not really. Like, maybe you can go to Kiaya's lane and get some advantage there. And it is, of course, nice to have your Cassante winning, you know, but he's not going to be as powerful as Route, who's just free farming the bot lane, grabbing turret plates just for existing and having shoved, basically, and winning lane phase against Slayder for the second series in a row.
Slayder has to be careful here. Chaos going in the hook. Now Tinowns with the follow-up. Dash out to safety. Fancy. Oh, Tinowns! Taking down Slayder. It must be Rain and Blood on the bottom side. Kati next on the menu, but he manages to get down a nice gravity field. Locking up 3. Good damage back onto Tinowns. Trying slowly but surely to cut through the Ahri, and he's going to get him. The max range death laser. He might be a little early on the spell shoot. It might not matter, however. He's trying to use him as a hook out to safety. Croc committing to the play. He's got the War Drinkers available as well. He wants to finish it, but again, the gravity field. Kati, W after W. He's taking his time, 1.5 seconds, but he's got all the time he needs. They're stunned every single time. Robo gonna get some plates back, but nice counterpunch from GAM.
Making it work. We were doubting the Viktor a little bit in the draft if it was going to come through, and if there's a turret dive that you can teleport into and help turn around, that's going to come up big. Getting those 2 kills, he is a very strong scaling champion who might be able to stuff these dives from Loud if they keep coming in. That was a nice turnaround there. Did cost a lot of resources, though, out of GAM, giving Robo some free time to catch up in the top side of the map. Still a pretty net even play at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's little moments like that that we need to see more of, at least punishing some of the more aggressive play from Loud. Respect to Loud for trying to snowball their advantage, and clean play initially from Tinowns, but GAM making sure to punish, making sure that it just doesn't get too out of control. If you do not get those counter kills there, I think the entire game just starts to fall apart. We're only 12 minutes in. Plates are still on the table, and I just feel like any mistakes you make as GAM are going to be incredibly costly.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things when looking at professional League of Legends is for the backbreaker play, the thing that fully breaks the game open, where you can no longer contest anything except for when people make a big mistake. It would be the Dame Aelin to Lororican backbreaker. Yeah, that was one of those
the real
plays.
ones who get that reference.
Yeah, you're a real one. That was one of those plays where if you don't get those cleanup kills and you just dive the bot lane, get a bunch of kills, and then break turret bot lane completely open, suddenly GAM has no place to make the rest of the map. And the fact that the Viktor does get 2 kills keeps them somewhat relevant in this game, though still on the back foot.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be important to track to see how GAM set up, if they can set up around these objectives, because that's when Viktor's going to feel powerful. If they're wandering into objectives late, they're not going to be able to do a lot. Herald is going to charge here. Some nice money to have. Ulti coming out. We saw this play just a couple minutes ago. Robo once again able to make it out to safety. Pull back. Kiaya now going over for the follow-up. Knocks him down. The desk called it out. We see it come to life on the top side. Kiaya finding the solo kill.
Yeah, Robo thought he was out, had his flash up, would have needed to flash the Q3 to get enough distance. That knockback keeping him in range for Kiaya to just go over the wall. Also had his flash. That's why you would need to flash the Q3 to get that extra distance. Not able to get it done, but Robo doing top lane things. Losing lane, winning game. We're chilling, absorbing pressure as we get the dragon.
Yeah. Ooh, and this is a play we got to take a look back at. Watch Tinowns here. This is what's sick nasty. Oosh!
The Ahri flash forward pull back on Q. Second part of it, very nice. Yeah. Here, kind of caught him in a rock and a hard place. He could have ran down, I thought, to get further away from Viktor's gravity field. It does scale on speed based off distance from Viktor, and so if you ran south there, but then you'd be just running into the waiting arms of the Cassante. Chose not to do that, and almost saved Levi there. Not able to get it done. Back's alive.
Lockup coming in. Pallet locked up. They've got too much damage, but Rakan got a stopwatch. Is it going to be enough? He is able to make it out to safety. Well played by Pallet to survive. Forced to burn an important cooldown. Manages to walk away with his life. That said, the tower, are they going to have enough tools to protect it? And again, we're in a situation where Kiaya forced to come bot lane to protect the play, and Robo, the one who benefits. Robo, the one who's going to get some time alone on the top side with this tower.
Yeah, you look at the CSD at 14, suddenly, hey, pretty even lane phase, guys. Look at the stats, don't look at the context. Robo went mostly even, 1 death, whatever, that happens. Otherwise, he also had that great pink board.
Look, man, MasterCard lane economy snapshot. Bam, this is the moment where we took the picture. Tiny lane gap,
Therefore,
220 gold. This is bam.
The beauty of a snapshot.
That's all we care about.
Yep.
It's like the post-game screen where your AD carry is 9-1, despite the fact that they were 0-0-0 for 30 minutes. Doesn't matter. Carried the game.
They should have been team fights.
Yeah.
No, just a bit of a rough game for Robo, but the rest of Loud looking incredible. The mid and bot side very much going in their favor. And we were hyping up Route for a reason. He is the primary carry for this team. They know it. They're sending a lot of resources down there to help him out. You can see a lot of the plays keyed off the fact that they're getting pushed in the bot side of the map. Then Croc invades, then they spill over down to the bot turret for those dives. Do not end up breaking that turret, though. It is actually Robo who, because there's so much pressure down the bot side that GAM has to respond to, Robo is actually able to just take top turret for free.
Yeah. And now, Tinowns is going to be able to grab this tower. Top turret down, obviously from the side of Loud, but they might fish for the dive here onto Robo. Again, trying to punish one of the weaker sides of the map. Nocturne all coming in. Ignite already ticking. Early Ignite just to make sure there's no Aatrox healing, but out he goes! World Ender out to safety. There's no wave there really either to play around the tower, so they're going to try to push for more. But now Cassante, can he hold on? Slayder off in the area. Croc getting over aggressive, a kickback. Oh, he's going, trying to finish the job. Croc, no! Oh, his mind was telling him no, but his body was saying yes, 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 and all of Loud saying no, no, no. That play did not work out. Little Lee syndrome costing him here as Tinowns finally dashed down to safety charm. He's got a bit more movement to come through, but the play will fizzle. Kati on the top side will finally break the tower.
Yo, your reference game is sick today.
Been trapped in a hotel room for 3 days, sick. Let me out.
He's been cooking for 3 days, finally has some bars to drop. That was the play, again, saving GAM's time, because they just invested so many resources into the top side that failed. Then Loud is saying, okay, great. 3 members on the top side. Kiaya is trying to stop this wave from getting in. He's trying to protect his mid turret. Let's go ahead and kill him for it. And they almost get it. They almost land this, but after the damage, nicely timed flash out of Slayder. I'll give him that. Sometimes you flash slightly too early and the Lee Sin Q follows you post-flash, but he was able to get away from the damage after the Q2 connects. Then the people from the top side, because that play took so long to develop, are able to get down and show up and actually help out around the mid lane. And they get a ton of kills back. They're able to close that gold gap almost to just around 600 here.
TP coming in from Kati. GAM looking to further cement their advantage after that positive play. Again, the gold, very small difference at this stage of the game. Robo stepping forward, Infernal Chain's going to be avoided. Kiaya strong, just going to step in, pull the Lee Sin back. They're going to try to one-shot the jungler as quickly as possible. Croc had a fantastic early game, but now he's just getting knocked down. Pallet flash out to safety. He's safe for now. Robo getting pulled back. Tinowns waiting over the wall. They can't quite find the angle. Nocturne going in. Feathers are going to fly. Levi needs to be flawless with spell shield timing, but he's not even going to get the opportunity. Levi finding one, another coming through. Robo getting pulled over the wall by Kiaya in the fights. GAM is monstering Loud.
They have finally grabbed a gold lead back at that Rift Herald fight. GAM take the lead in the game. They have pressure on the tail end of that, starting their scaling online. Kati up to 4-1-1. But the start of this play, the fact that he's zoning the bot side from being able to collapse, so it's a 4v3, and Kiaya says, great, I'm charging in there. He gets the double flip back on Q3, allowing Croc to be the first target that they melt. Finally, the bot lane of Loud has caught up here, but the fight's already over, and Kati just continues to threaten the backside of the fight. Robo has some heroics here. He starts kind of getting those resets that you see an Aatrox do. His health bar shoots right back up there, but just too little too late. Kiaya is still able to find the shutdown afterwards, and again, like you said, Levi on the other side of the fight, finishing off that back line.
Yeah, and if you looked at the damage during that fight, about 3.6k Kati over the course of the fight, Kiaya at 2.6. Just crazy. Goal difference over time, obviously telling us the story of this game. Powered by AWS. Right, I'm going to be honest. I was ready to just apologize to Croc. I said I was skeptical about his Lee Sin, and it was so good. And I just feel like that play on the mid lane, he got ahead of himself. And you talked about the backbreaker play. And I think that into that fight we just saw was the backbreaker play. Except Croc broke his own back. It's like he just jumped onto the other guy's knee.
Or it's like when you have the guy right over the head and they do that weird spin thing down and they flip it around, suddenly you're flipping the other guy on his back.
I don't know what that's called. I haven't watched enough WWE. Someone else can let us know.
Stress is somewhere watching
Stress,
this.
yeah, if you're watching, let us know. But that sucks for Loud because again, I felt like their early game was pretty immaculate this game.
Yeah.
Pressure across the board, clean ganks, simple plays. And then they tried to just get a little too fancy in the mid lane, gave away a bunch of kills, and then GAM came right back into it. And that's the thing about these VCS teams. You can't give them an inch. They will always go for the mile.
They are down to scrap. And if you go for a dive, they're going to meet you there. They're going to contest that play. You can see time and time again, GAM are submitting resources. They're not the go to the other side of the map team. There are some teams, when they fall behind, they start trading objectives, they try and scale, they try and stay relevant. GAM, and generally speaking in the VCS, they are the scraps. They're ready to go, oh, you're going bot, we're going bot. We're going to cover that dive. And it puts a burden of mechanical execution on you to actually convert on those plays. And should you come up short, they will punish you. And that's how they got back in this game. They contested on the bot side, they kept it close. Mid lane, they finally flipped it around. Then here's the Rift Herald fight, third fight in a row that GAM was able to come out on top. And Loud's comp is admittedly kind of difficult to play. If you're not landing charms, if you're not landing the kickbacks from Croc, if you're getting split in these fights and not assassinating someone out the gate, you're going to do less damage than GAM's composition, just fighting front to back kind of and with their backline flying in.
Yeah, and it's going to be tricky because ultimately, where are you using that Lee Sin kick? You know, who are you kicking? Where are you going to find that angle and that opportunity? It's difficult to find a meaningful impact. And Croc once again caught out here. Herald has been utilized. Ignite now ticking, just barely able to heal up. Nocturne ult coming in, but won't be able to find a target. Looks like he dropped out of vision just in time. Pallet stepping forward, just maybe hoping to catch Croc out. Of course, Lee Sin lifesteal buffed coming into World, so was able to heal up pretty quickly on the camp there. But mid lane tower broken open, and this is where the game starts to get a lot easier for GAM. Tinowns fishing for these picks, and I think this is what Loud have to do to try to find a way back in.
Yeah, I like Loud stepping forward here with the amount of resources that were kind of used to find the kill onto Croc. Multiple ultimates down, 4 of them, and not finding that kill gives Loud space to finally step back forward, get involved, start clearing out this vision. But the way that they're going to win this game is most likely through pickoffs, which means you're going to need to find avenues that are not warded out by the enemy team to find those backline targets like you're saying. You're probably trying to kick the Xayah or the Viktor if you can ever find them without the rest of the team around them. Go for them. If it's straight team fighting, if you're just meeting it up at objectives, it's probably going to be GAM favored.
Certainly is. And I think this puts even more pressure one of the players featured today in our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz, Rout and Slayder. You know, for Slayder, I think his life is easy now, because in the laning phase, Rout absolutely was getting the better of him. If that had continued, you would expect the Xayah to take over fights, no question. But Slayder, as much as he's the focus, the center of attention, the rest of the team have now made his life so easy because he doesn't have to be the superstar in fights. Yeah, he just gets to leap into the backline, try and one-shot an Ahri, maybe a Xayah, or just hit frontline. He's going to be chilling.
He is chilling, and you can see the Quick Blades Kraken Slayer build. There's been a lot of debate about the right Kaisa build. She's a champion that can kind of build anything, but of course that doesn't mean it's optimal.
Sure.
And in this game, there's not a ton of frontline to punch through. Robo is sort of the tankiest, but that's more through like drain tanking than resist or anything like that.
Yeah.
But was behind in the game, and so did not go for the lethality build, which I think I personally like a lot. If you're ahead or there's not that many tank champions, go in there, blow people up, especially with this kind of composition. I think it would have made a lot of sense. But being more DPS oriented here this time around, more front to back, kind of working with the Viktor kind of identity.
Yeah, I think I like the adaptation coming in. Obviously, Quick Blades Kraken Slayer can be strong overall, but the TP behind here. GAM looking to further press their advantage. A second TP now coming in. Nocturne to sow a little bit of chaos. Rakan immediately going in, but the feathers fly up, and so far the disengages come through. Kati immediately going to try to flashback out from Rout. The entire team forced to disengage. It is Robo versus the world, and Robo's doing all right thus far. Kicked over the wall. Croc now re-engaged coming in. Tinowns, one more charge left on the dash. Needs to get the kill, needs to get the resets. Robo on the backside, maybe he can do it. Tinowns going forward, wants to find the kill, but again, despite all of their efforts, Loud cannot find the angle, and it is all falling apart. They managed to get out, but they try to commit again. They try to turn it back in their favor. And at the end of the day, GAM stopped them in their tracks and set their sights on the Baron.
GAM brute forced that fight, multiple teleports, the Nocturne ultimate, and honestly, Loud did a great job kiting that out. And there was a moment here where, again, we talk about the mechanical barrier of execution of this composition came up just short. Here, excellent ult out of Rout to stay there, make sure he doesn't get charmed up by the Rakan. They managed to kite this one out. Rout's threatening the backside. Here, Kati is going to get kicked right as Tinowns dashes in with his Everfrost. And the miss of damage there, the fact that they were not able to actually just land that combination of the Lee Sin and Ahri together to get that kill, to get the reset, to then charge through the rest of the fight and potentially meet up with Robo, who was on that backside that entire time. If you get that first kill on Kati, you can probably reset most through the fight and actually maybe win it, or at the very least, do enough damage to stop the Baron going down. That does not happen. GAM is now completely in control of this game.
And it's wild to see how quickly this game has turned around and how well GAM are now playing with the lead. Because again, the early game was rough. This Nocturne looked pretty useless, but now is looking very relevant in these fights. Especially when Loud have to burn so many cooldowns just to get away from the initial engage. It's kind of a field day for Levi once he sees these immobile carries, cooldown lists. Can just run in. Blue Trinket going to spot out the dragon happening. Not a lot to be done here, but again, Loud were able to grab a dragon early in the game, so it is not sole point. Kiaya stepping up pretty fearlessly. Good poke coming through here, but GAM trying to bully their way back to mid lane, just take control of this wave. Off on the flank is Pallet, is Levi. Ult's available. And they fish for the fight here. Tinowns walking out, marking the flank, spotting it, but Tinowns
Didn't see him.
Didn't see him. Clean play around the vision, and instantly it just goes down. Flawless coming in from Slayder there, as now the fight's going to continue. A bit of a slow siege here. The kick back, the knockup going to deny it. It's going to stop it, everything again. Loud cannot find the angle in these fights. Rout's still standing, but everyone else is falling down. Robo trying to buy space for the 80 carry. But Rout's just not allowed to play the game. There is no room for the Xayah to maneuver. The featured matchup be damned, he does not matter. GAM breaking through, very likely to take at least an inhibitor. Will not be able to push for the win. It's just too early in the game.
Yeah, 15 seconds on death timer's not going to be able to get through both Nexus turrets afterwards. We'll see if they can even grab the inhibitor. Looks like they're going to back off for now after Rout has healed up there. And Palo was in the flank wanting to go, but his ult was just seconds away from being up. And it took too long, so he abandons the position. And I think Tinowns was just totally focused on mid lane, not even looking where his champion was going.
Can we see the vision here?
He's just walking right at him.
Yeah,
he's just not looking.
You said he just didn't see him. I thought there was a vision bug.
No, I mean like literally his
camera was
in mid lane.
And this is what's frustrating if you're a Loud fan, is this was almost a perfect early game, but the hands weren't good. The brain has been pretty good this entire game, but just these little mistakes. everywhere, plaguing this game for Loud. This is not how you wanted to start the series.
Yeah, you can almost feel there's like this slight moment of hesitation out of Pallet being like, am I getting trolled?
Am I trolling?
Or
is he baiting me?
Yeah, like, is this a trick? Is there someone behind him? But no, as soon as that ultimate came up, Pallet was able to go flying in there. He's had a very good game, 0, 1, and 10. Had a rough lane phase, him and Slayder. No doubt about it. There is something that they will need to keep an eye on going forward in this series. But at the very least, once they're out of lane phase, the two have looked monumentally better than the first time Loud and GAM squared off on day one.
Yeah. And right now, short of GAM throwing, which reminder they did do the last time these two teams played. They threw a big gold lead. It's feeling like the GAM victory lap. Slow and steady, most certainly. Still need to play it well, but they have all the tools they need to end this game in their favor. And Loud don't have the tools to turn it back in their favor unless GAM misstep.
That's the painful thing about this is their tools were at the sharpest in the early game. They were doing it pretty well, and then a couple just mechanical misplays over and over again leads to the point now where you're 7,000 gold down. They're starting to stack dragons on you. They got their first Baron, and now you're like...
It's tough, man.
Yeah.
You're like, this is the finest Japanese steel blade. The greatest katana ever made. And you're like, so I hit him with the side of it, and you're like, no!
The blunt side. You're bludgeoning damage.
I just hit him right on the horizontal side where it's thickest. You're like, no, that is not how a sword
how you wield
works.
that weapon,
Please
sir.
stop.
No. Taking a look at itemization, I love the Anathema's chains.
Yeah.
I'm such a fan of this item. It's just so frustrating. And when you identify the route is the only late game damage on the side of Loud, as well as their best player, get this thing that makes it really annoying should your fear go off. And I love...
Also, double Abyssal, because your Viktor is fed, is the greatest like high-five teamwork moment I've ever seen. Is it excessive? Arguably.
I was going to say yes.
Yes. Do you need two of the same aura for champions who don't really deal magic damage? No. Is that Viktor going to burn through everyone on an enemy team despite building a kind of weird tanky hybrid build? Yeah.
I feel like somehow people finally realized what Abyssal Mask did.
It took so long. This item has been stupid for so... I just want to say, as a long-time Abyssal Mask enjoyer, it does not matter what I think. The fight now breaking out. Route just forced to retreat here. GAM bullying in, but again, Loud holding the line pretty well. Have enough major cooldowns been burned that they can re-engage? The answer is no, because they need Route's ulti to be safe in these exchanges.
Yeah, lost the Ghost, lost the ultimate. They burned a number of cooldowns peeling back. It was nicely peeled, but you get nothing for it. The enemy team, without Baron, is still grouping up and taking turrets in front of your face by threatening these kinds of engages. Of course, they did burn their own ultimates. You know, Pallet has to wait for his to come up and whatnot, but they're still buying space on the map. They're getting wards down. They're grabbing objectives. And now Baron spawning in 20 seconds. You can see them going for the reset. A little slow, but they should be able to get back on the map in time. And in the meantime, Loud is having to chew through so much of this vision that was already placed down.
Yeah. Loud not even able to walk up confidently to clear mid out as Kiaya alone contesting this wave. So won't even have enough mid prio to come and contest that vision. This should cost Kiaya his life, but Loud just aren't confident enough to pull the trigger here. So Kiaya is winning the extended play. Robo now forced away. Pallet going over the wall, debating if they want to re-engage. Robo chunked out with no TP available. GAM's pick for the litter, kind of. Take whatever objective they want. For now, it will be the Infernal. That does mean conceding some of their Baron vision, but they seem unaffected or unfazed by that problem.
Yeah, they have a lot of tools to get in quickly should the enemy team try to start that Baron in a trade situation. Obviously, Levi on Nocturne can fly across the map. Same thing for Slayder on Xayah. So you just have Pallet running, zoning a little bit there by himself. The enemy team, or the rest of the team, burns down the Baron, then collapse if they need to. So nice little use of their potentially global abilities if they need to use them.
Croc stepping up. There is some vision in the pit that is yet to be cleared by the side of GAM. Slayder has cleanse. Kati has Xayahs. It is very tough to start a fight and immediately win. You cannot just come up and sucker punch GAM. It is going to take some time. You're going to have to win the extended engage. And that's a situation where GAM are pretty heavily favored at this point, this kind of lead.
Pallet once again on flanking duty, doing a good job trying to wheedle his way through the vision of Loud. Gonna get spot out on that pink ward. He goes a little bit further forward. And this is the difficulty for Loud, is that GAM is not just gonna start the Baron and get super low and let you jump on top of them and murder them all. They're gonna hover around that area, try and get you to face check them, look for opportunities for Pallet to catch you off on the side while the rest of the team has pressed forward into that vision to make sure they have not actually started off that Baron, because they do have a very, very fast Baron team here for GAM. If you do give them alone time, they can melt through it.
Yeah, stepping forward. Immediately, they'll GAM pull the trigger. They try to find the angle. Levi on top of the back line. Everybody running. The entire team split. A beautiful pullback coming in from Kiaya. Croc now left all on his own, so Pal going to get immediately kicked out. Croc buying a bit more space for his back line, but he's already down. Slayder ults in, and Kiaya does not care, baby. Get the Casante coffee pastas ready. This guy's making it happen, but Rout desperately holding on, trying to fire back. Kiaya needs to be careful about stepping forward. Rout, blast come through. GAM still have priority access to the Baron. Ultimately, 3 taken down 4-1, heavily in favor of GAM. Will be their Baron.
Nice play out of GAM there, and Kati continues to come up big. The Viktor that we were doubting in the draft, showing that he knows exactly what he's doing, able to go 8-2-8 on this champion, blow people up. It was his damage that Robo was like, okay, I got my gourd drink, I'm ready to try and heal through this. Oh my god, my health bar. Started off by Levi, of course, going in there, kind of splitting the team up with the vision. A nice Q3 out of Kiaya, yet again flipping Robo back, and then annihilated. Kati and Slayder comboing together there, and then it's just easy chase down for the rest of the team.
Yeah. And Loud are just spending this entire fight running. And Xayah runs pretty good. You see the feather set up here. You see the pullback. They are able to get one, at least slow GAM a little bit here, but GAM are so dominant now in these fights.
Yeah, resetting on the map, got all their items completed. Grab mid lane inhibitor, group up on one of these side lanes. Feels pretty cut and paste for the end of this game now, unless there's a massive stumble around Nexus turrets.
Red Bull Baron power play coming through. Feels more like Red Bull 20 minutes power play. I don't know. That one wasn't great. I'm sorry.
It's all right. We'll workshop it in the break. We'll come back. Everyone, forget you heard that.
Forget you heard that. That
was going to be a
work in
banger
progress material. We'll figure it out.
45 minutes from now.
Figure it out. All right. They cannot commit to the Rakan because they don't want to risk it, which is the perfect place to be as a support.
Able to walk forward, eat a bunch of abilities, and they're afraid to jump on you. Robo was in the top side there as well, doing a bit of split pushing, finish off his Sterix with that gold that he got. We'll see probably one more desperation play.
One more pullback. Sante again, unaffected by damage. Does get hit by the pullback. That's big. That could be a solid start to the fight. Again, burning through Kiaya, getting lower and lower. Massive shutdown for Loud. They need to pull the trigger. They have to fight. They're not going to get a better opportunity than this. But they can't afford to fumble. Nice cleanse coming through. Robo on the front line. Maybe this is their opportunity. The Viktor damage is massive, though. Burning through the entire team. Levi finally going to re-engage. And Slayder, it's his time to shine. His time to take over. A single pick, not enough. GAM now breaking their way into the base, bullying towards the Nexus. I don't know if they want to risk it here. Instead, happy to just have 2 inhibitors and walk away.
For a moment there, it looked so good for Loud. They were melting through the front line of GAM, who were getting a little overzealous to pull back onto Kiaya, but they were not able to land damage onto the actual carries of the composition. And once they step too far forward, they blow them up. Starts out here, a nice chain landed by Robo. Not able to get out to the corner of the box, the furthest distance possible. That gets Kiaya back in there. They blow him up, and they go, okay, this is the time. This is absolutely the right play. There's not many times you're going to kill the Casante for free and have a chase down sequence. But right here, I got to say, Seos misclicks onto Pallet instead of Slayder. I'm pretty sure there he was trying to target the Kaisa, ends up dropping his ultimate onto Pallet, and that enables Slayder to just charge forward totally unperturbed. And also, like you said, Kati was just dropping damage as Viktor does when you're trying to chase forward.
And again, in a world where Loud are able to snowball their lead and you can just one-shot a Viktor and he's not going to do that much damage back to you, it's not a massive threat. But when you have to fight into the Viktor, the game is so much harder. And in goes the Nocturne. Xayah already feared, waiting over the wall. In goes Slayder, just going to look to take him down. The shutdown coming in. The kick is too little, too late. Lands to the slaughter are Loud as GAM tear their way through the team comp once again, making it look effortless. It's a triple. Probably could give him a penta, but they're not even worried about it. Eyes set on the prize, eyes set on the win. They don't have a creep wave, but they have more than enough time to wait for it.
I don't think they need it either. Kiaya should be tanky enough with the rest of the team to just brute force this down. You saw the power of the Anathema's chain there, keeping Rout locked up for almost like 3 seconds there. Didn't even get his ultimate off. Well played in there. GAM taking the victory lap.
Tinowns out, Tinowns down. GAM finding a win. Yep. Reduced tenacity, infinite fear duration, powerful turnaround after a lackluster early game from GAM. Once they got control, they never gave it up. And this is not the same team we saw play against Loud earlier in the tournament. Looking revitalized. And this time when they found a lead, they did not hesitate to close it out cleanly.
I think it's going to be a good series, though, because cast your mind back to the beginning of this game. Loud had their moments. They had a great early game. They had the plays. They were being proactive to win this game. Just came up short. We'll have to see what adaptations they make heading into game 2. If they want to double down on that and just say, hey, we play better. Or you say, let's take a little bit more scaling, a little bit easier execution. Should we not completely dominate the early game? There's a lot of choices here to make for Loud.
Yeah. I will say frustrating game for Loud, and I imagine for Loud fans as well. A lot of mechanical misplays. Yes, there were some comedic decisions as well. Croc that engaged into the tower, Tinowns getting caught out on vision, and while those are great highlight moments to clip out and kind of meme about, ultimately, there's just a lot of bad button pressing and 1 or 2 questionable decisions that threw away a nearly flawless early game. I'm going to be completely honest. They went topside. They made a play happen despite having a losing lane. They were dominating bot side. Lee Sin was finding early kills. Everything you wanted to happen on paper happened for Loud, but it was not enough. I'm kind of flabbergasted after an early game like that. I think Mark's in a similar boat. I guess let's see what Trevor and the desk have to say.
Mark does not look flabbergasted. We had a lot of fun watching that one. And I'm going to say something that's a little bit unfair, but it captures how I'm feeling. Why on earth would any team degrade themselves into an all-out, skirmish, bloodthirsty battle against the VCS's #1 team from a region that is more experienced with their playstyle than maybe anyone else in the world? It's a little bit unfair, I know that, but that's how it felt watching the game.
Do you want to
Loud
elaborate?
started so well. Yes, we got a ton of replays. I'll tell you about it in a second or two. Let's jump into the draft immediately. Any gut reactions, I think, outside of maybe the Viktor loss pick, a bit surprising for us?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think that Viktor should have been in a Xayah and it would have worked better. It worked out fine in the game, not because I think the Viktor did anything specifically,
Hey,
but
when you
because
get fed a
Loud
little
kinda
bit, it
gave the
helps.
kills to them. But I actually think that Loud got away pretty good. You already had the Xayah into the Kaiser, cool. You get push. You have Nautilus into Rakan, cool. You win the laning phase because of how the kit functions versus each other. And that allowed them as well to play around. Guess what? Early game Jungler 2 had really good priority around the mid lane on the Viktor 2 because Viktor's very mobile, doesn't really allow much to happen. And top lane, as we predicted, was the only one that's going to struggle a bit. I kind of also go with the sentiment of a lot of people that giving Kiaya Kasante in a matchup he's already favored in going up against an Aatrox maybe not be the best idea.
Yeah, and I do think GAM's drafting was very smart around topside, banning the Renekton and Olaf and basically pushing him towards, with a counter pick, towards the Aatrox. Because at that point I was like, what else does he pick? Or willing to pick. So I thought it was really good drafting from GAM's side, and he just got punished overall.
I mean, listen, let's start at the beginning, and part of the reason why I was very happy with Loud until my angry outburst, I think their goal or their strategy of invading Levi, getting into that Nocturne's jungle, getting into his face over and over, it seemed to garner a lot of control for Loud, and I was quite excited about the Brazilians opening to this game.
You can see it here. This is the better draft from the bot lane coming through where you get the early priority, and this allows you to just move while the enemy AD carry is losing farm on the tower and even starting a slow push. Why they have a skirmish that's in favor of them, there's also Slayder losing farm on the bot side while all this is happening. So even if you don't get a kill, it's still a win and you push Levi out. This also then allows them, after everything's come through, Levi's gone up to the top side. Well, guess what? Bush put, we have Slayder on a reset, we can go for it again. So they just get their leads in ahead, and the early game looks phenomenal for Loud in the beginning.
Yeah, and it's kind of, oh, I remember this moment.
Yes. I remember you specifically saying, oh no, Levi has no flash. Oh no, Levi's gonna die. Yes, he died.
And he didn't drag the red into the bush, but I was like, oh my god, that was a bit of a shock. So overall, great invade by Robo. Great overall strategy to be able to punch down towards Levi and make him really like far behind in the game. In fact, his first ulti bot wasn't successful, and I think Levi was a bit tilted because even the first flash, there were a lot of moments for Levi in the early portions of the game were just not good.
Yeah, it looked like they should just be able to carry it out from the position they had themselves in.
They should have been able to, and because of this next replay, this is where my anger comes from, and since you asked me to explain myself, every second counts thanks to a reliable Cisco network. Kiaya and Slayder survive the mid lane dive, they secure themselves 3 kills to turn around the game. And this was just one of many events where, in my opinion, I think Loud just overchased. They did too much. What do you think, Opal?
No, I'm completely with you as well, man. Obviously a bit of a Kasante moment, but still remember, you left this champion up. I think Croc almost outplays it, just doesn't have the damage or follow-up yet from the team to come through with it. And then they continue on the engage.
Yes.
The hook from Xayah on the tower just allows Levi to come
Tinowns
in here.
looking for a
and
flank.
gifting this double kill over to Levi is really what sends him back into the game. You spend your entire early game winning against GAM, and then you decided to say, wouldn't it be fun if we made Levi come back into the game and we can play at even footing again?
Yeah, I like ballsy plays like that when you recognize and are aware of like, oh, they don't have flashes. This makes a lot of sense because we just saw them topside, so we have a timer here, right? But they recognize that they still had flash, thought they can outplay anyways, and then that's when as Draco's mentioned on the cast, it started to turn on them. And plays after plays, GAM is starting to win out these fights.
And on the bottom lane, I remember Loud's trying to start off that initiation onto the Kai'Sa, sorry, and they didn't have Pallet anywhere nearby. Teleport still comes in. At the end of the day, mid laner Viktor gets fed, and we just see time and time again these skirmishes going the way of
And I
GAM.
get it. Kiaya is playing K'Sante, okay? We've seen what the champion does, but we also have to mention while he's off that Kiaya is absolutely phenomenal on this champion.
Yes.
He is absolutely carrying them in these team fights, and he's doing so much work. This champion absolutely has to be banned against him, and he's one of the reasons why they win these fights. But even also the point that they got here was because Loud decided to 1-3-1 against the Nocturne, letting them come back into it after they gifted it. So I think Loud really fumbled the ball in this one where it could have been a way more even game.
And respect to Kiaya just in general, right? Like, sure, he has a K'Sante. Honestly, he probably would just perform on any champion at this point. He's just been performing this tournament.
Wow, 12K.
He was just so instrumental this game. The solo kill that he had top lane was 1 point. The 2-man knockup that he actually had multiple 2 to 3-man knockups.
Yeah.
A lot of it was assisted by Nocturne, but in general, I think Kiaya was able to find moments that were able to turn fights for his squad. So he was blessed with the fact that Croc made the initial mistake and that Loud continued to make those mistakes to get him back into the game, or like his team back into the game, but he was always there to begin with.
And also, let's give a lot of credit to GAM. I obviously have been pretty negative on Loud. I was hoping for a little bit more after that such a strong early game. GAM, on the flip side, I think a lot of those skirmishes, they did play them well. Mechanically, they look better. I think Slayder in particular, I came in with very low expectations, and let me not kid around. When you've got a K'Sante diving forward and a Nocturne diving forward, and then you pick your timing to when you use a Killer Instinct, it does make it simpler. But it was nice to see how much better he looked today coming up against Root in comparison to the last time.
I also think it just shows that, Slayder doesn't have to need to be the carry. He just needs to not end into Rout, so Rout gets ahead with the game. And if you go even against him, we have the rest of the map that plays very well, so there's no pressure on Slayder whatsoever, as long as he can stay even.
Closing thoughts before we go to ad break. Loud have selected blue side. So just before we go to ad break and get ready for game number 2, final thoughts as we look ahead. Loud potentially on the precipice of being 2-0'd.
I don't think they changed too much from the draft. I really like the Xayah first pick, and I think the early game was really beneficial for them. So they keep doing that. It's how you structure mid-game that needs to change for this team.
We'll see if they can fix it or if they are eliminated right here, right now. As a reminder, if you missed any of the action, you can check out all the VODs and highlights of Worlds 2023 over at youtube.com/gaming. We'll be right back with game number 2, Do or Die for Loud.
Loud.
What's your play?
Red Bull gives you wings.